Good?
Yeah, we're good.
We're good. Alright, we finally got it to
There's the talking. I mean,
we finally got it to record.
We can restart if you'd like.
No. It's
No?
whatever.
Alright.
I'll edit this.
No, you won't. Alright.
I'll bump the audio over.
Welcome back, folks. This is for another fun and exhilarating episode of the Talkbox Podcast.
Yeah.
Filling in for Chad is...
Chad's on here.
Yeah, I know. Is myself, Zack and Adam, 530. Filling in for Pat is our good friend...
Me, Adam.
Adam Bento.
I've been on more of these than Pat has been recently.
Yeah. Let's see. Filling in for Harry is an empty chair, also played by Zack and Adam. And filling in for Jason is another empty chair, played by Adam Bento.
Yes.
Excellent performance, Adam, as that empty
Thank
chair. So a number of days, many moons have passed since our last podcast.
Good couple of months.
Yeah, wow. And a lot of things have happened in that time.
Yeah, a ton of stuff.
So much stuff. And right now we're recording this on the precipice of E3.
Yes.
So there's even more things to talk about, to the point where we're probably going to run out of things.
Yeah.
We'll run out of time before we ever run out of things to talk about.
Oh, yeah.
Still.
No, definitely.
So what are you most excited for, Adam, about E3? Yeah, let's get right into the meat of that.
I am excited for the Nintendo Direct because Nintendo is kind of secretive about stuff, about what's coming out. And I know a couple months ago they dropped the Super Smash Bros. Trailer, and besides that, they just haven't really put out anything big.
Well, it's important for the hype, especially because nowadays hype really sells games, especially when it comes to what you're going to be pre-ordering, what you're going to be looking into. They really want to keep it. I can see why they would keep it under wraps. I know. What was it? Now, do you get anything from watching the Nintendo E3 presentation on your Switch? Because I know when a friend of mine used his Xbox One to check out the Microsoft announcements for things, they unlock little free versions of games.
I'm not sure. I know with the Splatoon 2 World Championships, which is happening along with whatever Nintendo is doing at E3, you got a free in-game shirt if you go through the little announcement thing about it.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah, but I don't know.
It's one of those. Off the top of my head, I can't think of anything at this E3 that I'm really excited for. I think there's one thing that I'd like to see do well, and that's Anthem. That's just because I know that if Anthem does well, then BioWare will do well, and I want BioWare to keep making games.
Yeah.
Because how we all know how Mass Effect turned out. But that's
Andromeda, especially.
Well, because the regular Mass Effect series is really good, and then Andromeda dropped the ball. But I feel like Andromeda just dropped the ball because of tone issues, and also because we're starting with new. It's always going to be a rough start, a rough start, and a rocky start when you're starting with new characters in a new universe. It's really tough to catch lightning in a bottle twice. And plus, the decision to not make DLC for it also kind of put the nail in the coffin. If you had good DLC, especially story-based DLC, that brings people in and brings people back.
I thought there was DLC, but since the game didn't get a good reception, they canned it.
Yeah, well, it was they were planning it out because it's Andromeda. It's a Mass Effect game. They were our story is what's going to sell. And then it just didn't sell well enough. And then folks just were all right, pulling the plug. And it's a shame. So I want Anthem to do well. I hope it's a good game, and I hope it lives up to the hype, I guess, because it seems like I've been seeing a lot more ads for it lately, but not a lot of information as to what it is other than Destiny, but with Iron Man suits.
Yeah, I can't really think of much else. I mean, there's a lot of rumors going around that, I think Paladins is going to make it to Switch, and people keep going Fortnite is on phones, when are they going to put it to Switch?
Right. And that's always the common... Well, that's one of the conversations that always happens at PAX East and a bunch of other road shows when it comes to showing off your demos is your indie game is cool, but is it on the Switch?
Yeah.
Because that's sort of the, little stamp of approval of, you've made it. It's officially made it onto the Switch, and it's a cool indie game. That's how you know it's, you're set.
Nintendo has been doing good with indie games recently. Once a week, they'll be check out all these cool indie games.
Which is nice. I definitely Nintendo has a very good idea of what is fun.
Yeah.
And you can definitely tell that just because Nintendo's always been a game company, and they'll always make sort of fun and interesting games, and I've always sort of appreciated that about them.
Yeah. They know what they're doing.
They really do, which I always... Props to you, Nintendo. I know you're not listening to this, but you don't need any more, bat packs. But there's one from us at the Talk Box. We appreciate what you do. Yeah. Keep doing it, etc. All right, moving on from that.
Yeah.
What have you been playing most recently there, Adam?
Since
I know we've been talking about Nintendo things, so...
Since the last time we did a main podcast and uploaded it, I got a Nintendo Switch.
And in that time, you have surgically attached it to your body, and you play it all the time, forever.
I play it a lot.
Yeah. How is the new Switch umbilical cord that hooks it to your sternum?
I like it. It's a lot of fun. I've been mainly playing Splatoon. Mm-hmm. It's fun.
I know you had expressed interest in the Banner Saga, which is coming to Switch. Is it coming to Switch, or is it on Switch?
1 and 2 are already on the Switch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I cannot recommend Banner Saga highly enough. It's one of my top 10 games of all time, and the new one's coming out in July.
Awesome. So,
that's coming right up. I kickstarted it, and I'm hoping to get a cool shirt and a cool mug from that.
Soon, yeah.
So that'll be nice.
Yeah, so I'll probably eventually get those.
My question is there a effective method? I know streaming is the new thing. Yeah. Does the Switch have a method of sort of capturing your gameplay and being able to upload it places?
The only thing that I could see video.
I could see a Bento plays Banner Saga.
Yeah, they can. You can take pictures, screenshots, but that's about it.
Just so you can take your, welcome from sunny Viking village that's falling apart, and just leave that as a little postcard.
I'm sure you can easily probably hook it up to a game capture thing.
Yeah. I just wasn't sure if it innately came with it, just because I know streaming's a thing with a bunch of the other consoles.
Yeah. So what else have I been playing on Switch? I've been playing Breath of the Wild.
Mm-hmm.
I recently got my first amiibo.
Oh yeah.
All right. Hello.
Yeah.
All right. Sorry about that. I got cut off.
So you recently got your first amiibo.
Yes.
To repeat previous Adam from 8 seconds ago.
Yeah.
And it's the original
the
Link?
Link riding the horse. But the thing is, this is the first time I went to GameStop near my girlfriend.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the first time I've actually seen amiibos in person for a decent price,
right?
Because most of the time it's Amazon. It's $27. I got mine for $14, which
good.
is normal price. So
I've been meaning to get. I only have one thing that uses amiibos, and that's my 3DS, and I've stayed strong for a long time. But now I'm actually thinking about getting them, partly just because I want to unlock various Fire Emblem characters in the Fire Emblem games I have, but also because there's a one of the games I talked about previously on one of our podcasts or on one of our box cards was Codename Steam. And Codename Steam, which is an older, weirder game.
Oh, yeah, we talked about that.
Has amiibo support for 4 Fire Emblem characters.
That's weird.
Which is super weird because they don't have, everyone else in the game is, in steampunk, power armor with, guns. And then you can just, add, Ike. And Ike's just, there with, the sword, looking around in, a cape. Just well, I guess I'll just stab these aliens now. And, you can get, Robin and Lucina and some of the other ones.
So, a couple other things with the Switch. I recently got the Mega Man Legacy Collection.
Oh, yeah.
So, I've been playing that.
That's good.
Occasionally. And indie game-wise, I found a game called Diver Valhalla.
Okay.
Which, the reason why I got it is because through GameStop, I got, $5, Nintendo Store cash because they added it.
Right.
I had enough points. And then if you buy things on the eShop, you get, gold coins you can turn to money.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, it was a $10 game, and, calculating it out, I only need to pay, $2 for this.
Okay, yeah. That's a pretty good...
I'm going to pick it up. And essentially, what you play as, a Valkyrie spirit.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't have a name or anything, and your job is to,
Basically, to go around finding the slain and like bringing them to Valhalla.
Yeah, just being good. And then the way it works though is it's kind of similar to like a Castle Crasher style game where you have the overall map and you just go on and you just like beat up everything.
Yeah.
But you have the Valkyrie, but you can possess Vikings and you go up to their gravestones and then you become that Viking and you can level it up.
Oh.
And then when that dies, you can pick it up again. And
yeah, that's cool. I like that.
It's super fun. It's like cartoony. And
that sounds like a solid game there.
Oh yeah, it's normally like $10. If you have a Switch, I highly recommend picking it up because it's great.
That's good. I know. God, what was I playing the other day? Was I've been on a real Norse mythology kick, and for a second, I thought you were talking about. I think it's a similar game, which is like Fight for Valhalla, which is basically Battle Royale but with Vikings. Which I recently saw the other day. I haven't gotten a chance to play it, but it looks to be sort of a combination like Mountain Blade or like a chivalry, like medieval combat, but with battle royale mechanics, with opening up chests and pulling out like bows and stuff, and going to town with Vikings.
Yeah. Last thing about the Switch, I have been trying out a couple of demos of games that are coming out.
Have you tried the demo for Detective Pikachu? Because I know I just got a...
Is that on the Switch?
No?
That's a 3DS thing.
What the heck?
And the amiibo is giant.
Oh, man.
And I've seen it.
I got the notification today about the demo, and I was thinking about looking into it, but I'm still bummed that...
If it was on the Switch, I'd totally play it.
I'm still bummed Danny DeVito isn't the voice of Pikachu in that one. Yeah. I feel like that was a missed opportunity.
So, I tried the Mario Tennis one.
Oh, yeah?
I'm garbage at it.
It
has a high learning curve.
It's
It's not motion controlled.
Oh, it's not?
I feel like it'd be easier if it was.
I could see that. I remember Wii Sport Tennis being something that was like not difficult to get your sort of brain wrapped around.
Well, the demo wasn't motion controlled because it was like an online tournament thing. I guess they wanted everyone to be fair.
Oh, that makes sense.
And the other demo I played was kind of puzzle adventure game called Sushi Striker's Way of Shushido, where you play as in a world where sushi's banned by the government, and then there's like these rogue figures going around like fighting with sushi.
Okay.
And you basically just match colored plates on like a thing, and then you proceed to throw the plates at whoever you're fighting.
Okay.
And it's super fun.
I dig it. I remember hearing about this now. Now that you've talked about this, I remember a sushi-based combat game being mentioned by someone, and me going, that doesn't sound like a game, but it could be fun. Dang, that's good. And
there's like little like sprites.
Nice.
In the demo, one of them finds you, except the voice doesn't match at all with the adorableness. It's like this deep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's what was the game? That sounds very similar to Adult Swim. Came out with a game a while back, which I think is on the Switch, called Battle Chef Brigade. I believe it's called.
I don't know if it's on the Switch, but I know what you're talking about. I think it's
on the Switch, but it was like you went out into the world in like a side-scrolling, like beat-em-up kind of style, and you like killed various monsters and you collected their parts, and then you had to go through a puzzle game where you were like chef, like cooking up the various ingredients that you collected from the world into different like dishes, and the different like colors of things that you matched up in the puzzle game were the different flavors that you were matching up with the dish.
Yeah.
And then by the end of your puzzle, you would have like a proper like thing that you would serve to judges, and they would compare yours versus like a fantasy like ogre chef person.
Yeah.
Which is cool. But that sounds very similar.
Yeah. Sushi Strikers is one of those games I'm like, this sounds ridiculous. And I tried the demo, I was like, it's actually fun.
Yeah. I had the same thought with Totally Accurate Battle Royale Simulator. Where I wasn't
totally
sure.
Accurate Battlegrounds?
Yeah. Because I was playing it. I got it for free because for the first 100 hours they're giving it away for free, and then it's going to be $5. And I will say, when I first saw it, I was like, I'm not sure what this is, and I'm not sure how to play it, but we'll see how this goes. And my first 20 minutes with it were really stupid, really fun. I like the inclusion of musket weapons. And crossbows, and like various crossbows of various sizes. I like that everyone's kind of like you can't like aim and shoot super well.
Yeah,
like you just kind of like hold the gun and hope it hits something, and just see what happens.
It's by the people who made Totally Accurate Battle Simulator.
That's right.
Which is goofy as all hell.
Oh yeah. Well, I think it's kind of funny just because they made this game as like an April Fool's joke, and then they're like, oh, I mean, it's a game now and people like it. Let's just keep going. And I don't know. It's charming. It's charming in its simplicity. I do like how the zone isn't so much a like glowing like gas or like a glowing energy field or like a gas that like hits the map. It's just big blocky walls, and when you're out of the zone for too long, the wall like hovers like a pillar over you and just like like crushes you under the pillar. It's really it's charming. It's a charming, fun little weird game.
Yeah, that sounds about right for something that they
I've also I've been playing a lot of Harry, why don't you tell us more about Conan Exiles? Thank you, Harry, for that. Harry and I have been playing a lot of Conan Exiles.
Together?
Yeah, well, because it's again, it's not a single player game. It's like your typical survival game. Think of it as Ark, but without the dinosaurs, or Rust.
That's what I heard.
And so you run around collecting resources and then building bases and places and doing stuff. And it's been kind of a hike. Like, it's been an uphill battle, just because Harry and I, when we first started playing in early access, we were playing the game, and it was like we were playing on a server, and there were occasionally wipes. So every once in a while, your whole base would just go from existing to no longer existing, which was a real pain in the ass. Then the official release happened, and every single official server that there was, including the one we used to be on, was full up. We're like, okay, well, this kind of sucks. Guess we have to go to unofficial. We went to an unofficial server, and that was good for a bit, but then they kept updating and doing like little wipes on that server, and we ended up losing our base like 3 times, which was rough. The third time was funny because thanks to Harry's smooth talking with the admins, we got a couple items that we weren't supposed to. Like, they basically showed up to give us all of our things back, and Harry was like, I mean, well, we also lost like a couple vaults, and 4 of the same named thrall that's really important. And I've been up to the volcano area, so we had some obsidian that we needed, and 500 corrupted stone, which is an ass to make. And they gave it to us, and we're like, all right, cool, no questions asked. Let's just take all this stuff and make a cool base out of it now that we have 5 billion times the resources we used to have. And then they closed that server. The folks that were on it were just like, we don't want to keep owning this server, we're just going to close it. And they closed it without warning, so that was fun. And now I'm on a different server that a different buddy had, and we had to rebuild our base again for like the 6th time. And it's really frustrating because like I can't remember what I've done and what I haven't done on this server that I've done on previous servers, because like there's like a lot. What I do like is that Conan doesn't tell you a lot of what's going on. The story's there, but you have to like find it in like little like rooms and like bosses and dungeons, and they don't really tell you exactly where the dungeons are, what the dungeons are, what you need to complete them, things like that. You can find recipes in the world, like if you complete the one of the very early bosses that they have in like a little side dungeon in the starting area, and you beat him, you not only earn the like recipes to make various cool weapons and like armor out of his like body parts. You also get the ability to make glowing torches out of bones and like seaweed.
Oh, nice!
Which is super cool. And they don't really tell you like, hey, this is something that you'll need. Like, you have to look and find that. Or I discovered very early on, I made a fluid press, and I wasn't sure what that was for, except for tossing berries in and making juice out of it. And then we started throwing fish into it. Fun fact, if you put enough pressure on a fish, it emits oil. And you can then use that oil for various things, like running your forge off of, because it's a cleaner burning fuel than just regular wood. And it was just, it's a really... Oh, and then I started putting heads in it. Because I wasn't sure what else to do with it, and I was like, well, it crushes fish.
This is the podcast title.
I mean, it was, and you put, like, because they let you collect heads of various things, and you can earn early XP by crafting them into, like, little, like, stuffed heads that you mount on the wall as decorations, and you can get decent XP at the beginning of the game just by, like, killing crocodiles, cutting off their heads, and then mounting their heads on walls places.
Makes sense.
But I was like, well, these heads have to have another use. And I put them in a fluid press, and out came bones and blood. And I was like, yeah. Also, there's a lot more cannibalism than I expected.
From what I heard, yeah.
Like, there was definitely a point there where I was walking around and it was cheaper and easier for me to just, like, kill enemies and then hack them up and then eat their parts than it was for me to go about the process of cooking up my own meat from, like, hunting regular animals. Because I had all the perks that meant, hey, it's raw meat, you can just eat it without taking damage. I was like, fine, perfect, whatever. And then I was, like, walking around with, like, 30 human arms just to kind of, like... just
take it out of your backpack.
Light snack. Just... Although I'm disappointed that you can't, like, jerky them. Because I know you can jerky all the other meats, so it's like... Whatever.
Jerky?
Yeah, well, you can make, like, dried meats out of the different things using a special drying rack.
Jerky fingers.
And then... It's just a really cool damn game.
Oh, yeah.
I will say, like, I'm already, like, a fan of the Conan mythos, but, like, this game is just kind of neat because they don't tell you a lot, and you just kind of run around the world slowly learning things. Like, there's a whole region that I haven't explored yet called the Corrupted City. And it's literally just, like, full of, like, this corrupting magic, and there's, like, bat demons and, like, weird zombies. But I ran in there quickly to just explore a little bit, and I walked into a room that had, like, a ghost. Like, a big blue ghost, which I've never seen before. And I talked to the ghost, and he was like, would you like to learn how to make a map room? And I was like, I don't know what that is, but yeah. So I, like, learned how to make it. I ran back out of the city before I got, like, totally corrupted. And I... ran into a were hyena, and I talked to a were hyena. He taught me an emote and told me a little bit more about the world. Didn't tell me anything about the map room. And then I looked up the map room online. Yeah. And it's like a special fast travel building that you can build that lets you jump between various magical obelisks that you can attune to. That before I just was like, oh, you can attune to them. I'm not sure what they're for. But then it's like, oh, this is a thing you can use it for. And
that's dope.
It's really cool. And you'll be running through... and you'll talk to a person, and sometimes there's NPCs you can talk to that will teach you things.
Yeah.
I ended up climbing a really tall mountain and talking to a guy who happened to be on the top of it, and he was like, would you like to know how to climb things better? And I was like, yeah. And he was like, here's the recipes for climbing boots and climbing gloves. And I was like, okay, neat. Or I went to a pirate ship and I killed the captain of the pirate ship, and I was looking around his place and I found a little recipe book, and it was like, we found a supply of hook hands, eye patches, and peg legs. These look pretty neat. So neat that I'm going to tell everyone to wear them, even if we have to cut off our own limbs to look really cool wearing them. And I was like, neat. And now I know how to make peg legs and hook hands. It's just it's a damn cool game. And I like that it's mostly PvE. It's mostly, you're out in the world fighting monsters. You can go on PvP servers, and there's a whole new and exciting aspect to jumping into people's bases and stealing their things. But I don't know. I have thoroughly enjoyed it. I will say it's again been frustrating for the amount of times I've had to restart.
Yeah, don't blame me for
from
that.
Scratch, but it's I can forgive it that because once you sort of know what you're doing, you can get pretty far pretty fast.
It sounds like it.
And I'm looking forward to future updates just because they've talked about adding more of a magic system to the game.
Oh, cool.
And also adding the taming of pets. Because right now, all you can really tame are people.
That makes sense in Conan.
In Conan, you set up a big generic wheel. If you've seen any of the Conan movies, you know what I'm talking about. It's just a big wheel in the middle of nowhere that you force people to push until they're loyal to you. You go out into the world, you find NPCs that have uses, like cooks or blacksmiths or carpenters. You knock them unconscious with a special cudgel. You drag them back, which is always kind of a fun experience because you lasso a ragdoll and just drag them through the world and jump off cliffs while they're following you, and they're just bouncing off of everything. And sometimes you walk too close to a panther, and the panther's trying to attack you, and it's just swatting at the person that you're dragging through the jungle. It's great. It's just fantastic.
Good. That's good. I like that.
But no, I've been enjoying it, and I've been playing a lot with Harry, and we've been making a lot of progress, I will say. So that's been fun with that. Cool. And I've been, I don't know, it's really soothing just to be, because half of it is just it was described to me once as the perfect podcast game. Just because a lot of what you do is the generic rinse and repeat of resource gathering.
Yeah.
Which you can just sort of and there's not a lot to worry about when it comes to sound cues. So for the most part, you can just kind of listen to whatever you want while you're playing, which is nice.
Yeah.
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 So that's good. I'm trying to think what else I've been playing lately. I know Far Cry 5 just came out with a new DLC, which hasn't been well received. I will say I like the idea that Far Cry has this weird thing where they like to make a DLC that's like a cool story DLC for an entirely different story, and I like that. I like that they take their engine that you're used to, they take your system that you're used to, and they modify it. And this has been seen to be especially successful with Far Cry Blood Dragon. Back when they had Far Cry 3, they made a whole wonderful expansion based entirely around like an 80s sci-fi action movie starring Rex Power Colt. And it was as someone who played Blood Dragon, phenomenal game. Definitely like a must play. Like better than regular Far Cry. Now, I know that the one that they recently released, I think it's called Hour of Darkness, which is like a Vietnam War story.
Oh, yeah.
Set using that same kind of like... It still uses the Far Cry system. And like all the engine stuff from Far Cry 5, but it brings you back to sort of a traditional jungle outpost experience that you might be like itching for from Far Cry 3. I know they have a really interesting system where there's more of a focus on stealth in this expansion, and I kind of like that because like from what it was described to me was you have perks that you earn through like linking together a bunch of stealth kills and going about like stealth killing people, and as you get those perks, they get better and better, and you move faster and faster. But once you're found, once you've been sort of like identified, and like the whole base erupts into shooting, you lose those perks. So it really sort of has a focus on this stealth gameplay. I like that. I like that it's sort of an homage to various sort of other forms of media. There are hints about all the DLCs in like the main game. So like the main character that you play in Hour of Darkness is an old man who has you going around getting his buddies Vietnam lighters in the actual main game, which I liked. And it still has like the buddy system as you free like your fellow Marines, your companions and stuff, which I like too, because I do appreciate that system with Far Cry. But we'll have to see how they do with like other DLCs. Like I like that this one's focus is stealth, and I'd like to see if each other one focuses on like a different aspect of like the Far Cry sort of formula. Maybe like the space one will have a focus on specifically like run and gunning, and the zombie one might have a focus on like, I don't know, driving especially, or something. Yeah. Along those lines. But we'll see. Yeah. It's definitely something to look into later. I don't know if I'll actually end up playing the Hour of Darkness DLC just because it's like more of the same. And I haven't even beaten the regular Far Cry yet, just because I'm trying to like finish up side quests and like wrap up the story. Well, side quests are fun, but also I feel like it's become I don't know if this is true of all games, because it just feels like side quests are what you're going to be spending most of your time doing, just because they're always going to be more interesting than like a main quest. And I think that's just indicative of all things. Like all the games that I've been playing lately that have had like your main quest versus your side quest, I've always been more engaged by that side content than I have like the main story beyond like a certain point, which is kind of a shame. But we'll see how that goes. I know, oh god, I've tricked myself into not buying a game that I'm kind of kicking myself playing. I don't know if you've heard anything about Vampire, which is a recently released game about being I believe it's in a post-World War I London, and you play a doctor who is now a vampire. Okay. And you go around doing vampire stuff, as you would.
It's interesting.
And it was funny because I basically looked at it and I said, this is a game Zach would like, which means it's not going to do very well, because it's not going to be a very good game. Because that seems to be my formula of, I like this game, I believe in it so much, I will pre-order it, and then the second I pre-order it, like, the game bombs. So I didn't pre-order this one, so it's a good game now. Good job, everyone. Go out and buy Vampire. But it's really interesting because it's made by the folks who made like Life is Strange. And I think it's their first time doing a game that's more of like an action RPG. So one of the main complaints is like the combat is kind of weird. But their social system with it is really cool. Because one of the main draws is that you are, as a vampire, get more... you have to drink blood for your experience. In order to get more experience points in order to level up. But you get more experience the more you know about a person. So, for instance, there's like a whole social thing where you go and you talk to a person, and the more that you talk to them and the more that you find out about their lives, you can basically, like, you can just eat a person for a certain amount of XP. But if you go and you, like, learn everything there is to know about old Mary McGillicuddy living down the street, by the time that you've maxed out everything about her and you know everything about her, where at one point she might have been, like, 500 XP, now she's 20,000 XP. Just from, like, but now you know so much about her. And you know that if you do feed off of her, she's going to die. So then it becomes this whole, like, process of, like, oh no, I can't eat Mary. She feeds an army of cats. And she, like, volunteers at the soup kitchen and is a relatively nice woman. Whereas before I just thought she was a screaming fish woman. But now I know she's good. And now you have to try to, like, rectify, like, she's worth so much XP. But is she worth that much XP? Is she worth...
Yeah.
Or are you willing to, like, sacrifice, you know? And then once you do eat someone, cool. They do a really good job of having the rest of your world, like, react around it. Like, people who relied on her, NPCs, will, like, be affected by her death, which is neat. And people have been talking about it as, like, kind of an interesting system to go off of, where people are reacting to people's death in certain ways. Which is neat. I like... everything I'm hearing about it, which makes it a shame that I didn't buy it. But then again, if I did buy it, it would probably do terrible. So
now you can wait till it goes on sale, then you buy it.
Yeah, there's a couple games I'm waiting to go on sale for. I know BattleTech came out a while ago, and I've been itching for another giant robot fighting game that I can sink my teeth into.
As you do.
As you do. Well, it's made by the Harebrained Schemes guys, and they previously made the Shadowrun Returns games, so they have a very decent track record when it comes to taking IPs that were sort of IPs that were previously like role-playing games and even older computer games and revitalizing them. So I'd like to see what they've done with it, you know?
That sounds cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think what else we had to talk about.
Yeah.
I know there's more E3 stuff, but that's really like they haven't announced a great deal.
No, not yet.
At this time.
A lot of big announcements already happened. You know, Battlefield 5. Or Battlefield V.
Battlefield something. Are we going back to World War II with this one?
It's World War II.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm a little...
Apparently World War I did good. So.
World War I did really good, but I think it's because no one did anything in World War I before. I think other than Verdun and a couple other like series, no one else really had like a World War I shooter. And I think that if you just go back to World War II, you're still going to get World War II gameplay that you could get anywhere else. I think that's really... If I really wanted to make something interesting, I would take the Battlefield-like-esque sort of gameplay mode, and I would find a way to modify it to various sort of forgotten, or at least not so well-tread conflicts. Yeah. Like, there's a lot to say about the Spanish-American War. Or even like
give me a Civil War game.
Well, they have a bunch of those. No, like imagine if you will, instead of doing Battlefield 1, you would do like Battlefield like Age of Imperialism, and it would just be like a bunch of like you'd play various British. Like imagine you're a group of British and Gurkha soldiers, and you're defending a mountain pass in India from like waves of like thuggy cultists and bandits coming after you, and like everyone's got like kukri knives and like, or like you're in Africa during the Boer Wars and you're fighting like German settlers who have allied with Zulu warriors and they're like surrounding your settlements and you're trying to like defend against those. There's a whole history of cool scenarios that mesh with
Spanish-American War.
Spanish-American War would be great. Fighting in Cuba, like you could be like with Teddy Roosevelt there on his horse, and you could be charging up San Juan Hill. It's I don't know. There's a whole. So much you can do. There's a whole. His history has so many cool moments that you could easily make games out of, and I feel like a lot of times we go back to the well-tread, like, well, Battlefield 1 was a success. You know what we need to follow this up with? The obvious sequel, World War II, which everyone has done before. Like it just feels
all the Call of Duty games before 4. Medal of Honor.
Yeah.
Fucking forgot about those games.
Well, remember that Medal of Honor was like the first series of like World War II sort of games, and then Call of Duty kind of came in and was like, we're doing the same thing, we're competing, and then they competed for a while, and then Modern Warfare was like, we're flipping the script, regular guns from regular, and like people were like, okay, well this is really good because it matches that formula really well, but like we had games that had modern like guns in Modern War. It's just people weren't playing them. Like, I don't know why it was so popular. Probably because they had like that right pacing and energy. And then they were like, "We're going back to World War II," and I was like, "What?" Okay, because that's what they did.
Yeah. Who knows? Let's see. Anything else we could talk about?
I know it's Chad. Do you have anything? All right, Harry. All right, Pat. Good to hear.
Yeah. Thanks, guys. Real good.
Real good support on that one. That was a nice one, Chad. I like that joke. That was a good joke.
We'll talk about some of the RPG stuff I've been looking at.
What have you been looking at RPG-wise? Because I know there's a number of RPGs that are out there in the wild.
Tabletop RPGs, by the way.
Tabletop RPGs. There are other good regular RPGs, but this is going to be... We're going to unplug for a moment here.
Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, so I think I've mentioned before that I'm super into the Tiny Dungeon, Tiny D6 system.
You have been the number one person who I've been hearing, like on street corners, like yelling about it in a megaphone.
You hear about Tiny Dungeon?
I'll be walking down the street, and all of a sudden I'll just hear, "Hey, you! You have a couple of dice." I'm not talking about gambling, I'm talking about roleplay. Tiny Dungeon, come and play, Tiny... And, like, I'm just like, oh, is that Adam? Oh, cool, he's out here. Nice.
Yeah, so, the Tiny Dungeon I think I talked about on the last podcast.
And it's not just... This ain't just your grandmother's Tiny Dungeon.
Oh, yeah.
We've gotten away from the fantasy setting, if I remember.
Yeah, and then there's Tiny Frontiers, which is in space, and has so many different... race options for like aliens.
That's cool.
You could be, I forget one, and it basically just looks like a bunch of sticks that got melted together and just kind of walks around.
That's cool. Now, can you take the various, like, if I wanted to take my medieval and I wanted to mix my fantasy and I wanted to mix it with my sci-fi, it all sort of congeals the same way.
Oh, they're similar, like humans in both games.
Right.
There are similar things you can do.
I guess my question is, what if I wanted to mix? What do they seem to work okay if you try to mix them? Like if I know that, for instance, the fantasy version has a bear option. If I want to be a space bear, is that a possibility?
You can. Yes, there's actually a micro setting where everybody plays bears that were trained, while all the humans and other people are in cryo sleep.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so you could totally be a space bear.
Okay. Cool.
If you wanted to.
And then we were also talking, I know you were talking about running an 80s action movie, Tiny Dungeon. Is that your personal creation, or is that a Tiny Dungeon's thing?
It runs on Tiny D6. It's called Magnum Vice Fury Force.
Nice.
And I should show it to you after this. It's goddamn ridiculous, because it's essentially just you play as 80s action movie.
Right.
Like
Loose Cannon Cop on the Edge.
Yes, Loose Cannon
Cop. Rico Mendoza.
The badass, the grizzled leader, the nerd hacker.
I'm getting too old for this. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool.
And basically it's like uses like the same like skill set. There's no magic in this one.
Okay.
It says like you can allow some players to use magic, but most of it's like magic is used by the bad guys who want to find some like strange artifact.
Okay, yeah. 9 times out of 10, you're fighting someone with like crazy powers or crazy whatevers, and that's going to sort of come into play whenever you're like...
Yeah.
It's your typical double dragon cult, or your ninja clan, or etc. Or, you know...
The bad guys from Big Trouble in Little China.
Yeah, those guys. Yeah. Love those guys. Love the... I forget their names. But I remember that they like start off as just generic gangsters and then slowly evolve their way into an evil cult run by Lo Pan, the ancient Chinese sorcerer.
So it's that, and then each because there's no like races or classes, they're all like humans. So each like archetype has like an ability you can use that you have to spend an awesome action point to use. But to rebuild awesome action points, you use these things called like 80 skills.
Okay.
But what I love about it is it just gives you the name of the skill. It doesn't tell you what it does.
So you can just do whatever with it?
So the grizzled leader has an ability you can... They're all like... You have to roll 3d6 to determine which 3 you get. The grizzled leader has one called Norm. And it's just Norm in quotation marks with an exclamation point. What does Norm do?
Who knows?
Who is Norm? The hacker one just has something called Power Glove.
Okay.
In all caps. So it's just...
So is it
super convenient?
In that case, is it more of a you find out based on the DM, or do you just discover it yourself, or do you work with the DM to create whatever that skill does?
It depends. Like the DM can like, all right, well, I want to use Norm, and some of them are like kind of obvious. One of them's like having the right item in your parachute pants.
Okay, so it's like, you reach into your parachute pants and you pull out whatever the item is that you needed. Oh, you mean this? And you pull out like the ancient relic, and it's like, how did you get that? It's like, hey man, I was just doing a dance and it fell in there. I don't know.
So it's up to the DM. It's up to the players. Working on it. Another part is during character creation, you need a tagline or catchphrase, and a theme song.
Oh, yeah.
The theme song is slotted in the initiative order.
Oh.
So before you go...
You play the theme song.
The theme song plays.
And then you
make your action.
That's cool. I like that. That's a neat way of doing it.
Oh, yeah.
I can appreciate everything about this so far.
Yeah, and then, Tiny Frontiers, going back to that, instead of magic...
It's like a technology sort of deal? Or
they have some psionic abilities, and then... you could do cybernetic enhancements.
Right.
So it's like, instead of a skill, you take a cybernetic enhancement. It's like, I want a robot arm.
Yeah, and it's like, okay, my robot arm has these abilities as opposed to, being able to... You're basically trading out your feats and your various, like, magical abilities for, cool robotics, as you would expect.
Yeah. So, Tiny D6 system is super cool.
Neat.
Yeah.
I know, I've been looking into Blades in the Dark, which is a kind of a neat... crime game where you basically, when you start, your players decide what kind of a game they want to play by what kind of a crew they are. Are they smugglers? Are they drug peddlers? Are they a cult? Are they a group of mercenaries that just like fight people? Like, what are they? And then you kind of exist in this. It's a very Dishonored style world where it's like a steampunk but like weird. The oceans have turned black. And it's like the consistency of like this inky blood kind of stuff. There is no sun; it's all like darkness, but like lit by street lamps. There's a ghost fence around the whole city to keep spectral things from coming in.
Well, that's kind of cool.
And like people who die in the city sometimes come back as ghosts. There are demons. There are monsters. There are like vampires and things. And you're criminals. So and. What's interesting about it is, as a DM, whatever your players are dealing with, you have to... there are essentially turn counters for every single thing.
Oh, that's kind of cool.
And so with your faction, say that you are part of a gang and you're fighting another gang. And that gang's special ability, which they like detail out, is they have some corrupt politicians. So they get more of their members who are in prison out over a course of time. So you... make a circle and then partition it out into a clock, essentially. And that'll be your... Say it's like, okay, it takes 6 turns. Each turn is like an action of the players in their district for something to happen. So it's a 6-turn clock to get a group of 10 prisoners pardoned from Blackgate Prison. Okay,
that sounds
my
really
characters
cool.
are running around and each one of them is planning to do something in this initiative turn or whatever in the district. Like Chad wants to build a flamethrower, so he has to buy stuff to make that. Pat is communing with ghosts in the district, so he has to take a turn to do that or whatever. And then it's like, okay, that those will take various turns. We'll drop that by this many, and then as they do tasks, as they do quests, as they fight the other gang, time will still pass, and that clock will still go down at the DM's discretion until it hits 0, and then a new shipment of prisoners from the prison have been released, and they're part of this gang. So now the gang that you've been fighting now has an extra group of hardened criminals with them. Now it's oh no, they've just got 20 of their guys back. And then the clock resets, and you decide sort of what gets in the way of that and what stops that, and whether or not the players are trying to stop that clock or are making it go faster through their actions.
So, a couple people would be all right, we know in this many turns they're going to get prisoners, let's try to stop that.
Yeah, if you, go out and you're how are these guys showing up so easily? We keep, the cops keep arresting them, but they keep coming back. What's the deal? And they look into it, they can be oh, how do we disable that clock? How do we, get that politician to... And sometimes maybe if your gang has similar problems, you can, hijack that clock. And by getting that politician, then it becomes your clock, and you can figure that out. And the same goes with heists. So, for instance, you have, say you as a DM set okay, my players don't have a lot of time to get from the roof hatch to the basement where the safe is, and when in between, they know the guard schedule, but the guards will have a shift change in 4 turns, essentially.
Okay.
So you set a 4-turn clock. And it's okay, my characters, if they can't get to the vault by 4 turns, the guards are back in their position. Because the guards have done a shift change. Say there's this long for this window of opportunity that they know about that they're trying to get through. And so it adds a time element to everything that you do.
That's really cool. I like that.
It's a cool... Everything I read about the system is cool, and everything I look into, a lot of their adventure hooks are really neat and kind of a gothic, kind of darker kind of style. You're not shining examples in you're a bunch of gangsters essentially. And I've always enjoyed crime games because they set up a lot of interesting. I feel a lot of D&D games miss out on a heist aspect of planning and skill sets can have. I know the most recent module that they've announced for D&D 5e is the Dragon Heist.
Dragon Heist,
which will have a heist to it, and I appreciate that. But on the other hand, I feel not enough DMs look into a heist or a...
breaking into...
Well, I've played a lot of Payday 2 with Chad and Harry and Pat.
There's a video on the channel. I checked it out.
Yeah, that was fun. But it's one of those things where it's really cool to sit down with a blueprint of a location, and you know what you need to get in, and you prepare based off of that. And you do planning and you do prep work before a heist. Payday doesn't have this, but in a normal heist situation, you would have to get a vehicle, a getaway vehicle that's prepared so that nothing's weird with it. Oh, we changed out the plates on it, etc. We know there are this many guards. We need to prepare. Okay, how do we deal with those guards? There will be this many people. We want to make sure that we have them contained so that when we do rob the bank, none of them hit the silent alarm. None of them hit the phones. We have to make sure that this happens right. This happens right. And there's a lot that can go wrong in that, too.
Yeah.
Which is cool as well. And I like the idea of having a group of criminals that has to, make something go off without a hitch.
Yeah.
And plus the time system that Knives in the Dark uses is also kind of unique, but also gives you sort of a... Things can be happening in the wider world. And, things can even be happening in factions you're not in, in districts of the city that you're not involved with, while you're doing stuff. While you're doing stuff, each faction can be using their own clocks to wrestle control from each other. And you as the DM can decide that and use that to better shape and change the face of this city that you're in.
Yeah.
So.
All right. So that's about all the time we have.
Yeah. Thank you, Chad, Pat, and Harry for joining us for this podcast. Really appreciated your input.
You guys did great.
We'll get you for the next one.
Yeah.
Things in the future. Are we planning anything coming up?
Probably going to do an E3.
We're going to have to do an E3 podcast at some point because everyone does.
We have a bunch of backlogged
We have a lot of backlogged nonsense.
that will come up.
I know we were thinking about possibly doing a co-op podcast with our good friends at Quester's Way. I know I was talking with other Adam about doing a DM's Corner, a DM's Shower Thoughts, which is another podcast that occasionally...
I'll be on eventually.
That Adam will be on. And I know we were talking about possibly doing a co-op thing with that, with the Talkbox podcast.
Oh, yeah.
And maybe,
that'd be cool.
Doing a crossover episode.
Yeah. So, think we already talked about a bunch of stuff we were playing in the beginning.
Talked about a bunch of stuff.
So, yeah.
I think I already talked about it, but I think I talked about it last podcast. They announced the new Valkyria Chronicles. It's going to be real good.
Yeah, I saw that.
I am going to keep pushing this damn game until it's good and in my hands, because it's a real thing that's happening. All right.
Yeah. So
that's my thing I'm excited about.
What am I excited about? I don't know.
You don't know what you're excited about?
Oh, Splatoon 2 Octo expansion coming out in July.
There you go. That'll be nice when you get a chance to get that in your hands and play it.
I pre-ordered it, so
there you go.
Yeah, should be coming out soon, and then looking forward to it.
Yep, you can be a squid. I mean,
octo.
An octo.
Octopus.
That doesn't rhyme with kid so well. Anyways, that's been us. Thank you for listening to us. We're on YouTube, iTunes, various other podcasting services. Where else are we? Anywhere else?
Anchor. We switched service to Anchor now.
We're in Anchor now.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we're also in your hearts.
Love you.
Love you too. All right. Have a good one, everybody. See you next time.